Howdy neighbors, welcome to another deck log breakdown. With BCS coming underway, we're currently into the thick of things and a lot of decks are currently being played in a whole lot of tournaments around the world. And one of the newest collaborative archetypes outside of Wreck-It Ragnarok is Shaman King. There's many different variants and different archetypes within the Shaman King mythos, so trying to figure out what you can single out to be able to use against your opponent can be a bit daunting, and I'm here to hopefully help out with that process to make it a bit easier for you and myself, because I too have some problems playing against this archetype myself, so hopefully we can work to it together. So as you can see on the screen here, this is one of the different builds and varying archetypes that you can play against in any of the BCS tournaments, and I'm going to give you a quick breakdown of things that you'll need to pay attention to while playing against these decks. So first things first, we have Asakura Yo, the poster child of the Shaman King universe, the main character to beat. And his main character prowess shows within this deck. This deck is focused centrally around him with the Oversoul mechanic, one of the new mechanics being introduced with the Shaman King universe. So right now, with the Oversoul effect, put a rear guard with a Midamaru. With the Oversoul mechanic, you tend to need a particular specific spirit name to put into your soul to soul charge it. Soul charging refers to just taking the card from the top of your deck and putting it into your soul, but you actually want to soul charge this from the rear. So you're just going to put this from the rear into your soul. And you draw a card, continuous, gets plus 5k to your front row until end of turn, which turns this unit into an 18k beater, which makes it very, very uncomfortable for your opponent to deal with. The whole entire archetype focuses around Yo being at relatively high damage. 4 is your sweet spot that you want to be at, and in combination with your grade 2 Goddess of Victory Anna Kyoyama allows you to secure your wins against your opponent. Her skills are as followed. In the back row, send attack of your Vanguard with Yo Asakura, and its name did not hit. You can Counterblast 1, rest this rear guard, and choose one of your Vanguards and stand it, and it gets drive -1 until end of turn. So being able to restand your opponent that possibly guarded at any point in the game, it doesn't even require a damage threshold to be at. It's kind of nuts, actually, especially if you've been rushing down your opponent relatively in the early game. And now I'll explain to you some of the grade 2 cards or other archetype cards within Yo you might tend to see coming around, because these are very good units that allow you to pressure your opponent relatively early and get some really good pressure on your opponent while attacking during the mid game. So we have, when placed on rear guard, becoming the world's top comedian Joko. Your opponent cannot intercept until end of turn because there's a lot of rear guards that tend to intercept for a whole lot of extra shield, and you kind of want to stop that. You don't want them to be able to block you. So you Soul Blast 2, so taking 2 cards out of your soul into the drop zone, you can search your deck up to the grade 1 Jaguar Mike. Call it to Regard Circle in the same column and you shuffle your deck. Thinning your deck out by a card, soul blasting your cards, and since you're using the Oversoul mechanic, you don't tend to run out that much out of soul, so paying this cost is relatively worth it, right? So you run 4 copies of that, and the skill of Jaguar Mike is when this unit boosts, it gets plus 2k, so that column does get plus 2 until the end of that battle. If the boosted unit is Joko in its card name, it gets 5 instead of the plus 2k, so it makes the column a 23k column, plus Oversoul a 28k column, so your opponent can't quite use a critical trigger just for a hard guard. You have to use 2 or more cards to stop your opponent. Stop them. They need to use 2 more cards to stop you. So this is a very nice card to do so, and it also has the additional effect: your opponent chooses 3 cards from their hand and reveals them. It is mandatory. They have no say in this whatsoever. It's very scary, to be honest. It's very scary because your opponent has to constantly reveal information to you. So even if they're going to be guarding with like perfect guards and stuff this turn, you have an idea of how your attack order is going to be, where you're going to be swinging by. Like fundamentally you're attacking 4 times in the turn at a certain stage of the game, and especially if you're getting a whole lot of extra pressure going, it's really nice to do so. And like one of the other namesake cards that are really good in this archetype too as well is the Let's Take It Easy Yo Asakura, which is a pretty pricey card nowadays. It's a triple rare from the set. When this unit attacks, it gets plus 2k until end of battle for each card in your damage zone. It can be possibly a 10k attacker with 5 damage, plus 20k potentially, and it can still hit for like 16 plus a good booster. It can hit for very good numbers nonetheless. When this unit is attacked, Soul Blast 1 until end of that battle. If this unit is hit, it does not retire, so it prevents itself from being retired, which is very strong in an archetype that wants to be aggressive and wants to stick to the board. And of course, for your trigger lineup, you do want to focus on your Amidamarus, since they are your most important units to be soul charging. There is Eliza, because you also do happen to have a Faust in your deck, but very good reason for this is that when this unit is placed from your hand, if your Vanguard is Yo Asakura or Wooden Sword Ryu in its card name, Counterblast 1, choose a shaman with grade equal or less than your Vanguard from a drop zone and call it. So then you choose usually Anna. If it happens to be retired by a Gravidia matchup, it does give you some longevity. Or if you happen to have Joko, you probably do like, okay, Faust, call Joko, Soul Blast 2, call Mike, and then you're just popping off, right? You get a whole entire board from one counterblast from one card, and you're playing Eliza, because Eliza is Eliza, you know? You're playing 7 crits in general. You can't play any more Midamarus, and Eliza is a pretty card to look at least, so it synergizes lore-wise with Faust. Faust doesn't need any Oversoul, doesn't need Eliza to soul charge, but it's still cute that it's there. So you have the Midamaru crits, you have the Midamaru draws, they're all 5k shields, and you also happen to have the Over Trigger from Shaman King, which is one of the stronger ones in this archetype. Play effect: if your Vanguard is in Oversoul state this turn, retire all your opponent's rear guards, which is crazy. So you play this as a order, or rear guard. I think you play this as an order. Yes. And then additional effect: choose one of your opponent's Vanguard and deal 1 damage to them. So then you also attack them as a, I guess, VMAX turn. You're basically VMAX / Descendant, especially those offensive situations. It's really nice to be able to do an extra point of damage when your opponent happened to hit like an OT against you, or your opponent's PG, then they're on 5, you hit OT, you're like, ah, crap, poof, 1 more damage, and you close out the game. Can be kind of nice. So this is the introduction to Yo Asakura. Coming up, I'll be bringing out a couple more videos talking about some of the other options that you can run as well within the Shaman King. So be awesome, stay awesome, have a wonderful day. Thank y'all for tuning in and stopping on by. If you have any questions in the comments, don't forget to leave them. Leave them where I can see them, in the comments. Take care.
Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. In other words,